Hey guys, this is David James from Business Growth Digital Marketing, and in today's in today's show, we have one of the SEOs from my local hometown of Brisbane, and I'm so glad to have him on the line. Benjamin, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So,
having me here.
oh, you're welcome. So, firstly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Excellent. So I have been working for about pretty much my entire time in digital when I wasn't working for myself within the travel vertical. So initially working in an agency that did small hotels and maybe tourism body.
Hmm.
Made the jump from there, did a brief stint at Flight Centre.
Hmm.
So looking after pretty much everything, both here in Australia and some small flight center businesses throughout Asia. And now I'm working for Covermore, which is a travel insurance business, working on their direct business and also assisting their partners with all facets of search, digital strategy, and analytics. So my title at the moment is Search and Analytics Manager for Covermore.
That's awesome. Now, I've had experience in both the travel sector and the insurance sector. Quite challenging sectors, if I recall correctly. How are you finding it, or how are you finding those sectors?
Well, I think it's very interesting.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't want to, I don't know how I'd feel about going deep into finance. You'd learn about some stuff that would be very boring unless you're so inclined. But no, I think if you're interested in what you're doing and getting to look at pictures on websites of Europe all day and stuff like that
Hmm.
is worthwhile. It is, of course, not without challenges.
Hmm.
You are playing with websites that do have very high domain ranks. So if you're looking for outreach strategies and things like that, you are really kind of knocking on doors with news sites or trying to make partnerships. So you don't have those quick wins or that low-hanging fruit. But look, it's a worthwhile. Sorry, they're two worthwhile verticals.
Yeah. Oh man. I know when I did it, because I was working with in the travel sector in the UK, and that was really I started in 2012 in that sector, and it was quite ferocious, for lack of a better word. So like verticals were changing all of the time. This was just as Panda and Penguin were happening as well, so there were a lot of changes at that time.
Yep.
Uh, like, what kind of challenges have you seen in the last couple of years? Because I actually haven't been operating in that space since 2014. Yeah, but what's some of the like changes or trends that you've seen, and how do you expect things to go forward?
Well, having a look at what some of the biggest challenges are is Google really with their various Penguin updates on all the links that these sites have collected over time.
Yep.
And travel sites seem to love to write blogs.
Mm.
And these blogs do pick up links over time that after sort of 5 years or so, you've got quite a large list of toxic links to sort of outreach and try to get disavowed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Google recently announced they haven't been doing much with the disavow files for a long time. I
Yep.
kind of suspected that for a long time
Yep.
myself too. So cleaning up links is tough in that, but I suppose it would be the same for anyone
Mm-hmm.
in that respect. I suppose the biggest thing that is a challenge is aggregators coming into the
Yep.
markets to sell flights, to sell hotels, to sell all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just considerably better at answering a customer's question or their search query than what your business certainly is. So if you're looking for, say, flights to London,
Mm-hmm.
and you got an aggregator like Cheap Flights or something like that, they have so many flights
Mm-hmm.
from different airlines. They're just better at answering that. And while
Yep.
there's not even much content on their pages, it's purely the user experience that is getting them to just fly to the top.
Yep.
Other thing I've sort of noticed there is with some of these small players, like well, not small players anymore, but like say Cheap Flights, is they build a really good website that they can just copy into markets and scale.
Yeah.
And I've noticed when they enter markets, initially they appear to chuck in a massive SEM spend on very sort of search terms that relate to the action people are trying to make. So a flight to London. And you just see them over time start to scale that spend back because they've proven to Google, they've proven to users that, hey, we're a great source for flights to Sydney because of all the goals and everything they get. And they keep working on that flow.
Yeah.
If you're working on an older website that isn't necessarily built today, you have all these legacy designs and things that you've got to work with. So you're not going to be able to move as fast as they can. With more and more aggregators coming into the market, with changes in terms of SEM ads, 4 paid ads at the top, then you've got 3 aggregators. You might be now, even if you're the first one winning that outside of the aggregator, you're now really 7th place on Google once you've got your 4 ads and your 3 there, and you just know you get those diminishing returns going down. So you've got to get creative. Is what I think. So you got to really start thinking about well and truly up the top of the funnel. You got to start thinking about what long tail searches will be, and you've also got to start thinking about what searches will be over time. So start doing forward thinking keyword research. So you got to take a nuance of, well, people are searching for this. Yes, I'm only getting 30 a month of this, 20 a month of that. But what's the question they're actually asking? And start building content around that and go back and test. And those terms that you are focusing on, it's always good, I think, to get a little bit of a SEM budget behind it as well too. So the sort of things we're talking about is very cheap clicks. These are long tail keywords, the very top of funnel. SEM is the conversion king, so generally your other players are really down there waiting for that. If you can start to get some traffic through to your site, even if you have to pay for it, and you prove a good user experience for these higher term keywords, you can quickly build up your blogs and start that conversation with your customers much sooner.
Yeah. Look, you touched on quite a few really juicy points, so so like I'll address the first one. The first one you really touched on was the value proposition. It's something that I've really been trying to get across to anybody who's doing any kind of SEO or digital marketing, because if you don't have that value proposition, it's not going to work. And whether you're an established business or whether you're a new player, you need to have that strong value proposition. And with cheap flights, they're a great example. Cheap flights and Skyscanner. Like cheap flights, the website it could be better in terms of how it looks, in terms of the platform that it uses, but in terms of their target audience, it delivers exactly what they want. Yeah, exactly. And the same with Skyscanner. So yeah, I just want to get more of your thoughts about the value proposition and how that impacts everything else.
I think it's everything.
Yeah.
The value that you give to your customers. Well, if you think about Google's mission statement is something along the lines of to organize the world's information and make it more accessible to you at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's just another way of saying is, are you? And if you are, when people are making that, you're definitely starting to see the rewards there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of empower with these sort of services, these aggregators, doesn't matter whether you're doing credit cards or home loans or anything like that, they answer that. People want to compare the services. People want to know and do that in one spot. They don't want to be out searching all day or spending a long period of time to find that information.
Yeah.
And that's just going to keep winning. So you've got to work out a new value proposition that you can give people. And it can't be creating content for the sake of creating content. It's got to give them something that they walk away with and say, I'm more informed about what I was looking at now, not I kind of saw something, I'll forget it.
Yeah, well, that also leads into another point that you mentioned before, which was the long tail. So one of the challenges that we have as SEOs is someone might give us thousands of keywords to rank, and there'll be some that has 1,000 searches a month, maybe 10,000, 20,000, and then you've got these ones that are 10 to 30, searches
Yep.
a month, and people are like, well, like there's nothing there. Or you run it through Keyword Planner, and it's like, oh, there's no searches, but from trends that, it's something that's going to pick up. I think that's one of the really big challenges SEOs face. How do you think we should try to communicate that, like as part of the business challenge,
But
to
do
really
you, do
get,
you mean to a client or to
or whoever the stakeholder is,
to, to, to your stakeholders?
yeah, yeah,
With that there, I think you've got to really come back to what the purpose of SEO is. Like SEO isn't a quick win.
hmm
SEO is about building your business up over time,
yeah,
but it's also your traffic up over time, I should say. But it's also about ensuring the current level of traffic that you have.
yeah,
So when we know that, I think Google announced that it's like 15% of searches made every day are things that have never been searched before.
yeah,
We know that with all these voice services, that start slowly catching on. But even just people who are typing, they're searching for longer and longer and longer and longer phrases.
hmm
I think when it comes time to sort of talk to the stakeholders, I mean, it's great to say, hey, listen, I've got this piece of data that says I've got 1,000 searches for this term, and this is true today.
hmm
But you also need to back it up with what's going to be true in 6 months and in 12 months to
yeah,
ensure you've got that traffic coming through.
yeah,
Now, I would also say as well too is like no two keywords are made equal.
hmm
The more detail you get in some of these longer tails, they do sort of, I suppose, go closer towards the point of sale.
yeah,
I'll give you an example of something that an SEO and I looked at a couple of years ago. It's a concept we called search funnel. Now, this is something that you can't track. I'm sure Google does, but we can't track that kind of goes like this. So say I'm looking for flights to Sydney.
hmm
I jump on Google and I type in flights to Sydney. I scroll down the search page, not clicking on anything because I don't get what I want. I then go back up and I'm like, flights to Sydney in December next year.
yeah,
I then scroll down and I go back up and then I'm like, no, that's still not what I want. I'm not clicking on that. So then I go to the next one, which is like, cheapest flight to December, boom, boom, boom. Third search, I click on something and I convert. Now, flights to Sydney probably would have a much higher search volume than flights to Sydney in December than does cheap flights to Sydney in December. But it's the cheap flights to Sydney in December that gets the conversion,
yeah,
which makes the revenue to their back pocket.
yeah, exactly. So like, that's one of the other challenges that I know I've seen in the SEO trend. So like, I really got involved in SEO back in 2007. And
Yep.
before it was a lot more of a direct response, so you're not really getting that nowadays. I know earlier, like we spoke about like conversion funnels and getting people to understand how SEO fits into that.
Yep.
Yeah, like could you just share your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So my thoughts is that everything has to. Well, let's start with this. If the business goal is I need to make, say, $1 million worth of revenue on my website, and that's your goal, and you know that you have, based on a period of time, a conversion rate of X percent, you're going to be able to work out how much traffic from all users you need to bring in.
Yeah,
Now, what you're not getting organically through SEO efforts, you're going to have to pay for.
yeah, exactly.
And you want to make your $1 million be worth as much to you as possible. So you want to reduce your cost per sale, or you want to increase what your sales are if you're confident with spending. And
Yeah.
the cheapest way to do that long term is SEO. Short term, it's definitely not, but long term, that's how you get there.
hmm
So you've got to think about. I think you've got to think about what percentage of your traffic do you want to aim to be coming organically,
hmm
and then what do you have to top up from there?
Yeah,
In terms of the sales funnel, ideally when people are making search queries that are very much right at the top, like in travel, we've got dreaming, planning, booking,
yeah,
experiencing, and then reflecting is sort of that buy cycle.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
When they're dreaming, as much as possible, you don't want to be paying for that.
yeah.
Because that's people like, wonder what Bali's like and
Mm.
things like that. So that's where you want us to be not paying for your traffic. It's when it's like, I want to book to Bali, I'm ready to go, here's my money, that you're more likely going to be prepared to pay for those actions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
Yeah, 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 you did. And like that, like another question I wanted to ask you was about like the processes with SEO. So, like the processes, but in either a business setup or
Yep.
an enterprise level setup, it
Yep.
has its challenges. So
Mhm.
like, what are your thoughts on how that should be approached? Because a lot of people they understand the theory. They're like, yeah, get us on page one for
Yep.
like cheap holidays, last minute holidays, like car insurance, and if you get it for me in like the next 2 weeks, it'll be fine. How do you get across? Yeah, how do you get across? The processes that need to be put in place, in order for the stakeholders to reach their objectives.
Well, that also depends on exactly how much money the
Yeah,
business has. So, if the business has lots of money, you can afford to be using enterprise level tools that can certainly help you with these things. You've also got to understand exactly what power you have to change things. Like if you need a developer to help you change some stuff there, how does that work?
yeah,
You also need to maybe sometimes push back. Like if people want to rank for things that have no value, you need to be able to say you're wasting your time
hmm
and stop the conversation right there. Um,
yeah,
well, I think there is one thing we have to rank for and be on page one at the moment, and we are. So that's all they really care about on the executive level.
yeah,
But if sort of I need to manage expectations, I'm going to say like, listen, this is probably something we can do within 6 months,
yeah,
conditional of these requirements that we can get development work done. We
yeah,
can get creative work done.
hmm
We can use A/B split testing tools for SEO, and there's
yeah,
some great ones out there that allow you to do these sorts of stuff, and we can probably do it. But I think what I'm trying to say is you need to manage the expectation of what
yeah,
they've got.
yeah. Uh,
Sorry, yeah.
oh no, I was gonna say, like, cause I've got my own agency now, and I used to run an agency in London, and that was the key thing I always used to say to all of my employees, because in SEO, like managing expectations is key, and that's been a common theme that I've had with all the SEOs that I've spoken with so far over the course of the last week.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, like the challenges still do exist. I wanted to ask another question, which was about testing.
Yep.
There's a lot of SEO people in the industry who know the theory. They understand the strategies. They read the blogs, but they
Mhm.
don't really get that involved in testing. I'm someone who believes in testing. You mentioned A/B split testing before,
Yep.
like, and I'm all about that. Because like the industry is moving at a rapid pace. Customers are changing their decisions all the time. There's just so many influencing factors. So, how important do you think it is for like anybody who's getting involved in the SEO industry to be involved in ongoing testing?
Well, look, you've always got to be testing. Oh, look, if you have a very happy client or you're on the first page for everything that you want to do, don't change anything. Don't rock the boat. Just leave it. You're winning. You're there.
Yeah,
But if you're not, and if you have the money, and you fixed all your technical problems, you've got that. That's really the space to go the next step.
mm-hmm.
I'd say before you start doing some testing, maybe read some blogs on what some people have learnt and some of them, but look for what the mistakes they made while they were testing, what they learnt from,
Yeah,
and then try to start your own experiment from there.
yeah. Are there any experiments that you've run yourself or with companies that you found to be quite interesting? Like whether it's worked or whether it hasn't worked, like any learnings that you found quite interesting?
Um, I'm about to run one that I can tell you about that I
Yeah,
think will be quite interesting.
yeah,
So one of my big things at the moment is you've got blog content from 2012, 2013,
hmm
even 2015,
yeah,
right? That no one views, no one really gives a shit about. It's not relevant anymore. If anything, it's just clogging up your crawls when Google's
yeah,
doing this by not hitting stuff up there. But what I see it as is a great opportunity to actually start testing new blog page designs on this old content and
nice.
see what's going to go on. So there's no real risk to what happens there. It's kind of risk free. The design changes that we'll do on the page, we're going to try doing structured data markups on a certain
Nice.
percentage of them that are different. is we're going to see if there's any significance, and that can determine decisions that we make down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a risk-free experiment. So I'm probably not going to tank the rankings of the site because it's stuff no one cares about.
Yeah.
But if I get some level of significance, so one particular, and I'm sort of scaling this out across portions of the site,
Yeah.
I can then say, all right, well, this is something we definitely need to look at, and then apply that to the content that we do want to rank.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, like I'm big for experiments. I like me personally when I do it, I normally like just build a small microsite, and
Okay.
then, yeah,
Yeah.
and then I run it. But then this comes back to like the whole processes thing because like when you're like working on the client side or sometimes you're managing another client as a part of an agency, you're not able to do that. You know, so you need to have the processes in place. Uh, like when you've got challenges like that, how do you communicate that with either the stakeholder or the client?
So this hasn't really been a problem I've had for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it really comes back down to managing expectations.
Yeah.
And also giving them the value of that opportunity. So I'd say return to your goal is to make this much revenue.
Yeah.
You need this much traffic. We've reached our diminishing returns for what we can achieve with our current strategy.
Mm-hmm.
We need to try something different. It makes the experiment that I'm doing makes logical sense. I've done a little bit of research about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the right way forwards for you.
Like just to kind of finish up, like what are some of the probably the top 3 things that you think people in the SEO industry need to either keep in mind or take away to really drive their campaigns like forward, like let's say in the next 12 months?
It's all about your user.
Yep.
What are the business goals and
Yep.
how can you add value to those business goals with SEO?
Yep.
And don't ever stop caring about your crawl, your
Yep.
crawl budget. That's what I would say.
What do you mean by the crawl budget? Just for those people who don't
Yeah.
really quite get it.
Well, so obviously Google only crawls a certain number of pages per day, and
Yep.
it can only get through it. And you want Google, assuming you have a good site, to be crawling your pages all the time. You want to so that you're constantly being indexed or you're getting your updates, whether you're making changes here, and here. Now, things that will slow the crawl down are things like it returning 404s, load time, slower pages, too many links because the bots have to follow those, and this can really start to hurt the number of pages that you can get. So if you jump into Search Console, you'll see on the right-hand side crawl settings, I think it is, and you'll see like a low, an average, and a high on all of these things. That low, you want to boost that up as much as you can so Google stays interested in your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for like from what you just said, like what level websites? For what level websites do you think it's like most important for? Like just from what you said, like I definitely like enterprise level, like for sure, those would millions. But you know, if we go down from enterprise level, just so that people who might be website owners themselves, just so they can recognize that, oh, okay, you know, I'm not doing this, I really should be.
I think if you have a website that probably has more pages than you could click through within a minute, you really need to care. If you've got a small site that's got 12 pages that includes like a contact page, your business name, your home page, maybe a few pages on your services, they're going to be crawled every time by Google. Mm-hmm. They just are. You've got 12 pages on your site. But for you there is as you start to build out your business, you need to then start to ensure that the crawl is growing as your site is growing. I'm not really sure actually to that question, to be honest. I haven't thought about smaller sites for a while.
No, like that, that's a really good answer. Because like there's different people who have different strategies, and like I know that like for myself anyway, I tend to deal with like smaller sites. I used to deal with enterprise level sites, but I tend to deal with a lot more smaller sites nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the crawling issues or the crawling budget isn't really that much of an issue like for me
Yeah.
because we normally get our pages indexed like really quickly. But then I've got other SEO friends in the industry, and one of them actually used to work at Amazon, who have like
Oh.
yeah, exactly. So I know he had challenges with trying to uh, yeah, get his pages indexed. But then there's other people on the smaller level who actually launch like really large e-commerce sites, and they don't take that into consideration. So
Mhm.
yeah, so like what you said, I think is really valuable for those people who think they can just launch a million page website and then again going back to managing expectations, it's not going to happen straight away. They need
No.
to they need to do the groundwork, and then
Yeah.
yeah, all right,
I agree. I think SEO is like, well, I think digital marketing
yeah,
is like a pyramid.
yep,
It's and or maybe not like a pyramid, but I think the higher up you get on that pyramid, the more fun stuff is.
yeah,
But if you haven't built the base of your pyramid,
hmm,
doesn't really matter. Well, what you get up here is going to get you some results, but it's not going to be as good if you don't have a solid base.
yeah. Oh, actually, one other question I'd like to get you to answer. Well, it's not really a question, just your thoughts on patience with SEO and how stakeholders should address it. Because like everyone wants to have quick wins, uh,
Yep.
and then there's recognizing that you have a good strategy in place, you've got a good execution team in place, but what you need is you need the time for everything to develop versus having a poor execution team in place and then like buying into the wrong message where they're not actually delivering what you want. So just want to get your thoughts on that if you could share some of your thoughts.
This is purely my thoughts. This isn't based on experience, but I
Yeah,
think if you have sold to a client in your agency
yeah,
that this is a plan and you are executing that plan
mm,
and you can sell them, listen, this is something you do over time,
mm,
they should treat SEO the same way they treat a long term investment.
yeah,
Forget about it,
mm,
let it go on in the background, and then look back after a longer period of time. It's not like as traders, you don't want to be going in there every day and seeing how much like incremental interest you have.
mm.
It's over time that you get the returns.
Yeah, like I know with a lot of the smaller sites that I'm seeing, like even like content marketing, because we're doing quite a lot of content marketing and social amplification. But we need to build a foundation first, and then like later on down the line, like we're just getting leads on like autopilot. We don't have to pay for it, you know.
Yep.
And the same thing happens with SEO, but then you get people after 3 months, they're like, oh, yeah, like, it went from page 3 to page 2, but I don't think it's working, so I'm just gonna, yeah, just try to do it by myself. It doesn't really work that way, so.
Do you refocus them on traffic,
Uh,
like your
so,
traffic growth? Yeah.
traffic growth, lead acquisition, the quality of the lead acquisition,
Yeah.
sales and referrals. Yeah. So, uh, like we're able to get the high quality leads to come in, and like even one of the niche sites that we're working on. We tend to work a lot with niche sites. Like we tend to have a decent amount of success with that. I don't really work on the enterprise level anymore. Uh, yeah, but like once everything is developed, and sometimes it might take, well, let's say 6 months. There's one of the niche sites I looked at this morning, and now it's just starting to kick in, and that's taken 6 months to develop.
Yeah.
Then there's another site, it's taken 3 years to develop, then another one's taken about 2 years, and but then when the spike happens, it just like happens like very, very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's the whole
Well,
patience thing, like us, is someone going to wait 6 months or 12 months or 18 months? And I know part of it is managing expectations, but also to get them to buy in to like the vision or the plan. Yeah,
yeah, communication is huge
yeah,
and very important. And also educating your clients about the process as well means that
yes,
I think they understand it more when you do start talking about time and the way stuff works. But
Yeah.
something I've always found really strange about people with websites, with clients,
Yeah.
is if they had a bricks and mortar store,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say they're not Jamie Oliver, who's someone who's well known when they open a restaurant,
Yeah.
they can't really be expecting that that restaurant is going to be having, say 3 sittings each night straight away, unless they're spending money to get their marketing.
Yeah.
But over
Exactly.
time, word of mouth gets there, and assuming they're good, and that business does grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But with SEO or with websites, which is really just your digital storefront, the expectation is I've got a website now. I'm going to get lots of money, and it's just going to work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of reconnecting the digital store or the website with maybe the business they're more familiar with, which is a bricks and mortar, or I don't know, back when they were in the yellow pages and they used
Yeah.
to compete, try to get to the top of that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just a website now.
Yeah. Oh, look, I completely agree. Very, very insightful stuff. Ben, I want to thank you again for joining us on the show today. It's been incredibly insightful. Just before we go, where can people find you?
I don't have a website at the moment, but if someone wants to reach out to me, shoot me an email at ben@ideaschangethings.com, and have a chat.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
All right, sweet. Well, again, awesome. Thank you for joining us on the show. And you know where to find him, guys. Talented mind, loves SEO, passionate, great talent. Look out for him in this space. Thanks again, Ben.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me on.